Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think we are set up on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Just give me 2 minutes. Let me get water in my bottle. You take your hands, but open your eyes to the world's all groundbreaking news, entertainment, videos, and like-minded friends. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Bachelor and Bachelor by Bachelor. All right. When it's 10 on the dot, 7:30 there will start. So let's give benefit for those who always love to be at the nick of time, just on time.
Yes.
Some who is coming exactly 10:00. So how's it been this past few days?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of work these days, and I've been currently working on a couple of new projects. So yeah,
Okay.
most of my time goes along studying how to be wiser, basically, in these COVID-19 times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
What about you? How's it been for
Yeah,
you?
there's been lots of research work. I've been preparing for a presentation. I have two
Wow.
presentations actually, one next week and another one in October. So it's meant to, the one in October was meant to be in person. We're meant to be in Boston, but the spike in COVID in the US, we had to make it online. So I've been preparing for that, and I've been doing just one course too. Those who know physics, I'm doing the course Quantum Field Theory. Those who know physics will know that quantum field theory is very crazy. All right, I think we can start. This 10:01 a.m. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's morning here in Florida. It should be afternoon in Nigeria, and then evening and it should be evening in India, I believe. So I say you're very much welcome. Today I want to talk about we'll receive questions about the general application process, and then particularly Sonia will talk about how to send cold emails to, which is very, very, very important. First, I must say that we've had very many people get funding because they were able to write the message, they were able to send cold emails. We've had people get that funding. And so it is very, very, very possible. And what you will see code email do for you is you can get an RA directly, research assistant straight away, so that the funding you'll be having will be from either the lab, the professor, not necessarily from the department, because many times the funding from department is usually limited, many times. Professors usually have their own extra funding. I remember when I was doing my own application, I sent a lot of messages to different professors. Some received some positive response. I remember the first time I applied to FSU, and one of the professors responded positively, and then but eventually I was not chosen. Okay, so what I did the second time I applied, I didn't send cold emails, and okay, I didn't send cold emails the second time, and I was given funding this second time, even though I didn't send cold emails. So it's possible, very, very possible that you get without cold emails, but the process might be easier when you send cold emails. For example, I have a friend who got into Yale, and one thing he did was send cold emails. He was able to send cold emails to the professors there. And that one very professor, in fact, he did part of his work in India. So it was in India when he was sending, he's Nigerian, did some of his work in India. He was in India when he was sending the cold emails to professors. And and what happened was that one of the professors took interest in him at Yale, and they even paid for the professor paid for his application fee, the professor paid for everything that has to do with payment. And then my friend is in Yale today, he's enjoying himself. So let me leave the floor open for Yale. Did I say Yale? Let me leave the floor open for Sonia to speak, and then we can pick it up from there. Any questions, we'll be able to tackle it. I'm also monitoring those on YouTube. I can see your messages. So any question from YouTube, we'll also be able to tackle it. All right, Sonia, let me leave the floor open for you.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for all the love that I've been receiving for the past few weeks, ever since I got to Twitter, sharing my own experiences. And a little bit of introduction about myself. I have recently completed my master's in cognitive science from India, and now I am studying the science of wisdom. So, understanding the human psychology, we've realized that the highest aim of human life is to become wiser. So I've been trying to do that, and and then luckily I only applied to two places this year for my higher studies, and I got through both of them. So I thought maybe I have something to share with the community. Like I received a lot of inputs last year for myself through Twitter, so I started giving back to the community, and the kind of love that I've received from all of you has been phenomenal. So thank you so much for that. And secondly, yes, why I decided to start my journey on Twitter sharing about cold emails was primarily because that is the first thing you do. That's the first impression that you make on the person, on the professor, on the supervisor that is going to be with you for the next 5 years, right? And it's what we call in psychology, there's this something called primacy effect. Okay, so whenever your primary impression is the first impression, that always remains etched in the minds of the people that you are interacting with. So there's this art of cold emailing, and I wasn't good at it at all. Okay, so I have sent out essays instead of cold emails to professors, and some professors yeah, some professors were kind enough to reply to those essays, and um, yeah, and some professors were kind enough to reply to those big essays, but I never was successful with those kinds of emails. And what I've realized also is that people tend to feel, we tend to feel that professors would like to, the more we write, the more intelligent we will appear, right? But that's not the case. Academia is about communication, but communicating in a way that we respect other person's time. So, which means that we need to express our views in as a concise manner, as a summarized manner as possible, so that we can convey our message effectively.
Oh, sorry, Sonia. You can unmute yourself. That was an
Yeah,
error.
yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so that's the idea of cold emailing, right? And whether you're applying for an internship, whether you're applying for a research assistantship, whether you want to apply for a PhD postdoc, that's the first thing you do to establish a connection between yourself and the supervisor, right? So that's the science behind cold emailing as to why it's important. And another thing is that A cold email is something where you're just trying to establish a very professional connection. Based on the supervisor's response, you can think of giving more information about yourself, or maybe you would like to restrict some information about yourself. That totally depends on the answer that the supervisor gives to your first email. So while we are preparing that first email, there are some things which have worked for me, and I have shared those across many tweets that I've written. But I would like to just repeat them, and then if you have any questions, you can probably ask me in more detail. So the first thing that you have to remember while cold emailing is, before you cold email the professor, you have to email other people. Okay. And by other people, I mean you have to try it. First of all, the first thing that you have to do is look at the website. If the professor has a website, if they have a lab, if they have a department, what information is there that is already existing? Are these professors even inviting cold emails? Because there are some professors in a couple of universities that I've come across, they clearly mention on their website that we would not you do not require you're not required to send us any cold emails. And if you end up sending them cold emails, that would show to them that you haven't really read the website properly, and it would not have a positive impact on your application when you do apply. So first of all, make sure whether your cold emails are entertained by the professor or not. If they have mentioned nothing on the website, then you may take the benefit of the doubt and you can still go ahead and send an email. Okay. So that's the first thing that you have to make sure. And secondly, you can, if you start early enough, which is why I started to encourage people to start researching from July itself, you can start to contact the existing graduate students in the professor's lab. And the best part about these universities is that they provide you with the email address or the contact information of the existing graduate students or the existing lab members. You can first email them, 2 to 3 members, and you can ask them if there are any tips, if there are any things, if there are any concerns, that you might need to take care of before you email the professor. Because sometimes what happens is professors tend to be so busy, they forget to update their website. So maybe there are some new research projects which are going on, which uh, maybe which can be brought to light to you by these existing grad students. And if you are able to get that hold, then the professor will be very fascinated, because you've done your research before even sending a cold email. So that shows that you are a diligent academic, right? So does anybody have any questions, or should I go ahead?
I think you can still go ahead and we can compile
Okay,
the
cool.
question. Yeah. When,
Cool. Yeah, so that's the first step that you have to do. And secondly, it's about there's a trade-off. Obviously, there's a trade-off in life everywhere. You can't wait forever till you receive a response from an existing grad student. Neither do you have to be too impatient. So you have to make sure that you set a limit for yourself, that this is the time period I have to wait before I take the next step for any aspect of grad school application. For me personally, what has worked for me is 1 to 1.5 weeks. Because if the professor hasn't responded to me within a week, from Monday to Monday, then or if a grad student hasn't responded to me within a week, from Monday to Monday or Tuesday to Tuesday, I feel that there's a need to give them a gentle reminder. If they are not responding you after that, then you may, after one gentle reminder, you may want to proceed with other people that you want to contact. So my golden number, if you will, is 1 to 1.5 weeks. That's 7 to 9, 10 days. And then you can go ahead with sending a reminder. And once you have decided that you have to write to the professor, the second thing you have to do is read the work that they're doing. And by reading the
mm,
work is not just what's present on their website, because that's something everybody will read. You have to make an extra effort to catch their attention. Go to their scholarly pages, right? So go to Google Scholar. Most of the professors you can found on these search engines like Google Scholar, Scopus, right? And Google Scholar is very common. You can easily find your professors there. Go there and organize their work according to the date of publications. So you have a couple of filters when you go to Google Scholar. You can arrange their work by the number of citations, that is, by the number of times their work has been pointed out in the literature, or you can organize it by the year of publications, if you are interested in understanding what is it that they're recently working on. Because in most cases, the professors will want to hire students for a project that they are currently working on, that they have recently worked on. So it will give you an insight that, look, these are the themes that the professor has been interested in for the past 2 years, for the past 3 years. So these are the papers which I'm going to read for my cold email, right? So maybe you can take the first three or the first two publications and have a read, have a look at them, read their abstract, read their introduction, read their methodology, and if you have time, read their discussion. Because I understand that not everyone will have the time to read each and every paper in its full length, but you may want to start with reading a couple of papers full length, and then you will gain the art of gauging what the main point is from the abstract, methodology, conclusion, discussion, I'm sorry. So that's how you take 2 3 papers, you read, and then you just don't, you just think about, okay, what is it that I've understood from these papers? Have I understood something? Because if you've even understood something, if you have gained an insight, you can share it with the professor in that cold email. You can show that this is the impact that their work has had on you. That's one kind of message you can show to them. Because professors, researchers, scientists, they are working to create an impact on the community, and if they can feel that they're actually reaching out to the students, they're actually being able to reach out to aspiring scientists, then it's a gem. It's basically you're making their day. Okay. So if you find something really fascinating, really exciting, talk about how it has impacted you and be genuine about it, be authentic about it. There's no need to flatter them. There is no need to say things which aren't true. Just be genuine. And secondly, if you feel that that you can probably, if you were in their place, you would have addressed this question from a different perspective, or you would have taken up another methodology to address these questions, or maybe you wouldn't have addressed these questions at all. And if you have reasons for them, if you have an efficient way of addressing a particular problem, mention that in your cold email. Because what we are trying to do as scientists is that we are trying to improve and upgrade the status of what is going on, right? And that has to be done based on a reason. So whenever you're proposing something, whenever you're proposing a hypothesis, whenever you're proposing an aim, it has to be backed by a reason. Okay. So if you look at my cold emails which I have sent, I have always say that why X is not done like, or why has the topic X not pursued in a manner, because we know from the literature that X is supposed to be like this. So I always add a because, or a, or that's why, because these pointers which tell the professor that I'm not giving any suggestions out of thin air. I've read the literature, I understand how the mind works, and that's only why I'm saying that you could have considered addressing this question in a different manner. So give your thoughts, but also back them by reason. That reason can be theoretical. That reason can be something which hasn't been there in the literature. Maybe that reason is something which you think according to your understanding is true. So that works as well. Okay. So apart from that, now let's talk about the structure of the email, because this is the meat, basically the body of the email that has to be
Yeah.
about your work and your aspirations. So you just have to divide your email into 3 parts. Okay, just 3 parts. The first part is going to be your introduction, and please do not write I am Sanya Jain, or I wouldn't write I'm Sanya Jain, or you won't write your first name, because the email space is very sacred. You have to take as less of it as possible, and whenever your email appears in their folder, in their inbox, the name will automatically appear on the top or in your signature. So don't waste any part of your email by writing my name is this and that. You can just write dear doctor, uh, the last name of the person, or dear professor, the last name of the person. But you have to make sure that you don't use professor, because some people are not full professors, right? Some people are at different posts. They may be associate professors, they may be assistant professors. So it's safe to use the word doctor, okay, if they have a PhD. Now you just write, I hope you're doing well, I hope you've been keeping well, or you and your loved ones are safe, as per what, however you want to greet them. And then you just quickly jump on to your point. You say that I am a master's student or I'm an undergrad at this university from, mention the name of the country. You tell them that I am currently working on this, or I am currently interested in this. That's your second line. And the third line, I am reaching out to you to know if you have funded PhD offers for the fall 2022 or whatever is your period of application, right? And if they have mentioned any of these things in the website, if they have already mentioned on their website that they have PhD funded positions for the fall 2022, then you don't write that statement. You just simply write, I am applying, I am reaching out to you in relation to the funded PhD offer for the fall 2022 as mentioned on your website, right? So you understand, you read their website and you tailor your content in a way that they get to know that you have read whatever they had to say on the website. So after the first part we've discussed, we have three components. I am a master's or a bachelor's student. I am interested or I'm currently working on. And third is I am connecting to you or I'm reaching out to you in context of a PhD offer. Okay. Now, the second part is the main part of your email, which should take the most space of your email text. And that is, you will talk about, I was really fascinated by your work on, you write the topic. For example, you talk about bioenergetics, or if you're in physics, you talk about what Samuel was talking about, right? That I'm interested in this topic. And your papers, you give the names, you don't have to give the names of the papers that you have read. You just simply write your work on this, then you give an in-text citation. For example, if I have written a paper and if a student were to contact me, they will write, I've been really interested by your work on decision making or by your work on biases, and they will just simply write Jan, comma, in 2019 or whatever is the year of the publication. And your work has, you can then go ahead by saying that your work has sparked or the work has ignited the following research directions in my mind or the following research questions in my mind. And then the best way to clearly state your research interest, it would be in the form of pointers. Okay, you just write 2 to 3 points, just 2 to 3 will do. Write your best 2 to 3 research ideas, and then after you have written those, you just come to the last part of the email, which is a third part, which will talk about, I would be interested in exploring the aforementioned or the above mentioned or similar research questions under your supervision. It's important to state that you are also open to exploring similar research questions so that they know that you're flexible. Because sometimes what happens is they might like your ideas, but they may not want to exactly pursue what you are talking about in your email. Maybe they want to pursue something in a related sense, but not exactly what you've mentioned. So you have to make sure that you explain that you are flexible enough to, you know, to amend or to tailor your research questions as a PhD scholar when you visit them. And after you've mentioned that, you can simply go ahead and say that if you believe that our research interests align, or if you believe that our research interests overlap, could we continue this discussion or could we continue to discuss them further via email slash a quick call over Skype or just a quick virtual call? And you just simply end by saying that I've also attached my CV for your reference. And it's nice to attach your CV for reference because that helps the professor look at your profile, look at your background in a very clear manner without you having to write extensive essays in the email. Because if you've written everything in your CV, then you don't have to talk about, okay, I did this internship, I did this, I did that, that's what I learned, these are the courses that I've done. Just put everything in that CV, and then you just end your email that you look forward to hearing from them, and you pay your regards, and that's as simple as that. So the actual format, I have used this format for virtually 300, around 2 to 300 emails. Before that, I used to write horrible emails. I have written approximately 500 such emails for internships, PhD positions, research fellowships. I have written horrible emails in the beginning, but then I got better at it. And yeah, and the last chunk of my emails which followed this format, which I just discussed with you, you know what, if even if professors didn't have a position, they would still respond to my email saying that we are sorry that we don't have a position, but the way that you've written
Mm-hmm.
your interests are so well that they would direct me to someone else who might have a position. Okay, so If you're able to catch someone's attention through your writing, then even if they don't have an opportunity to offer, they will be willing to, they will be compelled to guide you to someone else who might have a position. And that has happened with me a lot of times. So these were my thoughts, initial thoughts on writing a cold email. If you have any comments, if you have any specific questions which I wasn't able to address yet, please go ahead.
Okay, that's beautiful, Sonia. There are some questions here, but before that, let me add that when you are uh, sending your cold emails, like she has said, you don't need to write all your life stories. Just put what is important. For example, if the professor is working on cancer research and you have an experience, the right experience in such a research, you can put it in your letter. You don't have to talk about all other experiences. This is not your SOP, okay? Statement of purpose. This is a letter. And remember, you want to write in such a way that you're catching the professor's attention in a short interval of time. The person is reading your email in like 30 seconds. Like, I remember my professor, she received a mail from someone from Nigeria. And she came to me like, did I give an email to someone from Nigeria? I said, no. So she just brought her phone, showed me the mail. She just swiped quickly. I read the message in like 30 seconds to know what the whole thing was about. What was I looking for? In reading the mail, I was looking at the name of the school the person finished from. I was looking at the project the person said he did. And I was looking at what the person said he's interested in. Now, what my prof wanted to confirm from me is that this school, does this exist in Nigeria? Do they do this thing actually? Can we say this person actually has this experience they said he has? So you want to keep it short, go straight to the point, no stories. Okay, so Sarah, there are some questions in the chat.
Yes.
Let me just read it. If you answered one, someone said, can you attach CV? Yes, you can attach CV. Most of the code emails I wrote, I attached CV. I remember I shared the terrible CV I used to attach on Twitter, where I included date of birth, I included local government area and all those stuff. Okay, and of course, professors still responded to me even as bad as the CV was. But of course, you can make your CV look very good. And but I'm just saying that even if your CV is bad, many will still respond to you. And before I move from there, I remember you were talking about having an alternate research interest. One of the schools I applied to, I was applying to something medical physics and the likes. Then, of course, I had alternate research interest, but that was my interest then. And they got back to me and they set up an interview with me. And one of the questions I was asked was this. They said, our medical physics, we have only small number of slots for medical physics. Are you interested in another professor in the department? And you see, I already prepared for that question. I already I wrote down names of professors I might be interested in, those I think I would love to work with if my first choice does not work. Okay, so immediately they mentioned that. I said, yes, I have interest in Professor so. I love what he's doing on this work. I said, okay. Now, if I was not prepared with another professor's work, with another research interest, they would have just said, oh, we are sorry, we really wish to admit you, we really wish you come to our school, but see, this is your research interest, we cannot accommodate you. We don't have extra funding for that. And that would have been it. Okay, but I was able to mention alternate research interest. So even though you have an interest, don't be rigid, be flexible. You see, like one professor will always say, go where the funding is. Don't be rigid. Someone say, oh, in my life, I must study, it must be condensed matter physics, either condensed matter physics or nothing. No, don't be rigid, be flexible. There are other things, related research stuff you can also do. All right, so someone is asking, if one wants to apply for September 2023, when should I start sending cold email?
I think it's too soon to start thinking about September 2023, because when you are writing a cold email, you have to make sure that the timing is such that they don't forget you when you actually apply. Okay, so if you
Yeah.
start applying for your 2023, if you start cold emailing in 2021, then when they will be reviewing your applications in December 2022, they would have forgotten about you. Okay, so that's why if they're if they're reviewing your applications in the December of of the year, in the last month of the year, it's beneficial to email them by September, okay, of that year. So if you want to apply for 2023, you will write an email to them in September 2022. Right.
All right. Yeah, and then you should also know that research interest is dynamic. It changes per time. Their
Yes,
interest at this point in time may be something else. By 2023, they're already planning to start working on something else. Okay, so
exactly.
if you write them now, you are writing them based on what they're doing now. They might have completed the project. They may complete
Yes,
the project in next 3, 6 months, and
yes,
then they
yes,
move on to
yes.
something else.
Yeah, because I think that's the importance of talking to grad school students, and that's why people who have these insights about these labs actually tend to do better in their applications. Because my professor himself from the US, he said that I am going to receive new grants. I'm going to receive, and the work that we've done so far till the year 2021, we are going to change everything, and from 2022 we have another series of studies which will go on. And if I hadn't contacted these people from before, my email wouldn't even have been paid any attention to, or they would have just simply said, sorry, we don't have, just like Samuel was saying. So yeah, please make sure that you're dynamic, you're keeping tabs on how their research interests are changing with time.
All right, let me pick a question from YouTube. Um, Someone said, can we talk about their work in the SOP? Well, like, can you what you mean what the professors are doing? Can we talk about it? Can we mention it in the SOP? And I think Sonia mentioned that in when she was talking about that, that you can make reference to their research works, those things you saw that attracted you to them. I mean, they want to know. Schools want to know. One of the things schools want to know, even when you write your SOP, is what attracted you to our school, what attracted you to our department. For example, one of the things I wrote when in my SOP when I was applying to FSU was that, oh, there's a national eye magnetic lab in FSU, and it's the highest powered magnetic powered lab in the world. I was writing all those stuff, of course, which is true. And then those are the things I saw, and I saw some research was there. So you can make reference to those things when you write to them. But of course, it's their work. So you don't need to start writing, giving them what they wrote. I mean, start writing the details, same details they published. It's that they know what they wrote. For example, if I publish a paper now and someone wants to ask a question, you don't need to start telling me, I wrote the paper, so I know what you're talking about. Just direct me to it. So I want to say something to that.
Yeah, so I just have this thing that what I write about their work in my SOP or in my cold email is that what resonated with me, because they could have worked on a project that could have 10 different aspects to it. They could have a technological aspect to it, they could have a theoretical aspect to it, they could have implications about it, they could have conclusions about it. But what is it that resonated with me the most is what I will focus on when I'm talking about their work. So I will give you an example. So the professor that I wrote to, I specifically mentioned that his neuroimaging work on this research question inspired me the most, because this helped us understand what is going on in a person's brain when they're thinking about something. And that fascinated me the most, because other researchers are only trying to understand the behaviors of that person, but you are also trying to look inside the brain of that person. So you are giving me more insight as compared to other labs, because you have the component of neuroimaging. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
you are discussing their work. You're telling them how you will benefit from being there, because they are giving you something which other people aren't. So that's what I would like to add to it.
Okay. Good. Let me pick another question from Zoom here. Someone said, do we need to attach cover letters?
No, I think if you're writing a cold email, you don't have to additionally attach a cover letter, because cover letters generally work in the form of those PhD positions which are advertised. Okay,
Mhm.
so there are PhD positions, there are graduate research positions which are advertised throughout the year. So whenever you go to portals which publish these advertisements, like find a PhD scholars, and there's so many of them, uh, you will see the requirements. The professor will tell that in order to contact us, in order to apply for the position, please send us these many documents on our email. So if they mention that you have to send a cover letter as well, you send a cover letter. If they mention that you only have to send your CV and your research proposal, you send that. So a cover letter is only required if they are specifically asking you to send one.
Yeah, I mean, you need that if it's a specific job application. Cold emails means uh, more like unwarranted email, something like that. Not
Yes.
unwarranted in the sense that it's bad, but
Mhm.
you just like you just shooting sporadically, just thinking, hoping something sticks. Okay,
Yes.
that's what the cold email is. And of course, your letter serves as your cover letter if you want to see it in that regard. Someone is saying, will this stream be available for download on YouTube? Yes, it will be available for download, definitely. Someone said, how about if one choose to study a course different from one's undergraduate course, like from agriculture to education? Is that feasible? Let me allow Sonia go first, then I will come on
Yes.
this. I know I've written a lot about this.
Yes. So I'm probably one of the people who has changed their research interests every year. Okay. I have jumped from psychology to neuroscience to genetics to biology, and then I jumped back to psychology, and now I'm studying cognitive psychology. So it is absolutely okay to apply for a position which is different from what you have studied in your bachelor's. So if you've studied agriculture in your bachelor's but you want to apply to something else in your master's, it's totally okay. What matters is, why is it that your research interest changed?
Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, in my case, my interest changed from psychology to neuroscience because I talked about how psychology gave me an overview of human behavior. Okay. It just taught me about how we behave externally, but that wasn't enough for me to satiate my curiosity. I also wanted to understand what's going inside the brain, for which I needed to understand neuroscience, for which I needed to understand neuroimaging. So I talked about it. And then as I moved across, then as I moved ahead in my career, I talked about I now want to study genetics because there's another layer to human behavior which is beyond the brain, which is basically the genes. Okay, so after the brain comes the gene, and these are the most fundamental levels of behavioral regulators. And then I came back to psychology, which I started with. Then I said that, okay, I've studied about everything. I've studied about behaviors, I've studied about the brain, I've studied about genes. Now I know that it is the behaviors that I want to mostly focus on. That's what I resonate with mostly. So, and my journey was so simple. I mean, I didn't have to make or cook up stories in my SOP to justify the change of streams, because that's what happened with me. And the reason why your research interests are changing is not because you don't have a reason. You just have to think about it. And that reason doesn't have to be perfect. That reason can be anything. That reason might simply be you didn't find that interesting or you didn't resonate with it. You must have reasons for not being able to resonate with it. Just go ahead and state that. Because we are all humans. We
Mm.
don't have a linear path, whether it's life, whether it's career, whether it's relationships, anything for that matter. There is nothing linear. There are always going to be twists and turns, and the more you can explain those twists and turns and how you overcame those is what reflects the true, the core of you. So definitely go ahead and talk about other research interests that you have developed over the years.
And I must say this that we have people who have done it before, those who have changed, switched from different, from their BSc background, gone on to different further career paths. For example, someone has moved from sociology to public health. I have a friend who moved from physics to data science. I have another friend, someone else who moved from education to data science. In fact, I have a friend, yeah, and that's related to the agriculture. I have a friend who did mechanical engineering. Now is presently doing a PhD in education. Okay, so you can actually move. If you have a passion for teaching, yeah, you can shift, you can switch, and then explain your motivation. Everyone understand. Every professor understands that we are dynamic, we are not static. interest changes per time. Okay, so it's not a big deal. It's not a problem. You can actually switch. So someone is saying, can we have your cold email sample? My own
Yeah.
simple answer is it's on Twitter, but
Yeah,
this is
please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead and see my pinned tweet. The top tweet is about my cold email. I have a sample attached to it, and my username. I'm just gonna type my username if you don't know already.
yeah.
It's okay. So this would be my username on Twitter. And you can go for the first tweet and you can always DM me if you want more samples. I have a lot of samples if you would like me to share. I have no issues with sharing my cold email samples. I just don't share a lot of them on Twitter because it might just overpopulate other people's feed. But yeah, please go ahead and see the pinned tweet. You'll find my sample.
And I also shared some samples of application, grad school application materials. I think it's on that one, my pin tweet. If you see my pin tweet, click it. So there are some tweets under it. I think I attached it somewhere there. You see it, samples of code email, samples of SOP, samples of everything you can think about, reference letters, GRE materials, TOEFL materials, IELTS material, everything you can think about. You will find it there. So you have everything you need. Let me move to Twitter again to pick one of the questions. I mean, did I say Twitter? Oh God, YouTube.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, can we email a professor without SOP? I mean, you don't need to email your professor, the professor, your SOP in the first place. Okay, your SOP is for the graduate admission committee. That's when you're actually applying. Emailing the professor is not applying. I think you should know that difference. Sending the email to the professor does not imply that you have applied for the position for the admission. Okay, it's just trying to lobby. Let me use that word to get a safe landing or to get someone you can work with. Of course, many people don't get professors, so they don't have potential advisors when they come into the system and they start looking for one. When they, for example, for me, when I came into FSU, I didn't have a potential advisor. I mean, even though I saw the professor I emailed a year before, I went to meet him. I said, yeah, I emailed you. I remember I emailed you, we discussed, but presently I'm not interested in you. And it's not a bad thing, okay? Nobody will feel bad. I told the professor, I said, I'm looking out. I want to see what every professor has to present. The thing is, professor comes to speak to us. They try to lobby for students. So they're searching for students. So they tell us about their research work and they're hoping that someone will pick interest in them. So I told the professor, I'm waiting. I want to listen to what every professor has to say. If I find you worthy, of course, I'm coming for you. And of course, I picked another person at the end of the day. Okay, so it's not a big deal. So you don't need to email the professor you are looking at, sending a cold email to. You don't need to email your SOP. That is for your real for the application in itself. So anything there?
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like me to add something?
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can say
yeah.
something.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, SOP exactly like he said that it's a part of the formal admission procedure, which is going to be reviewed by a committee of people. You don't need to add your SOP unless specifically asked by the professor as a reply to your email. Maybe the professor wants to know more about your research interests. Maybe they want to know about your experience. Then they could ask you to share a document stating your proposal or your statement of purpose. Only then will you send something you specifically asked for. Otherwise, just your CV and the email.
In fact, that what you mentioned now reminded me. There's someone on Twitter too, because I think it's presently in the US, if I can remember well. When he started discussing with the professor took so much interest in him that the professor asked him to send his SOP. And you know what the professor did? The professor edited, reviewed the SOP for him, edited it, made everything so perfect, helped him with it. They discussed together, asked questions. The professor told him what to write, what to put, take this out. And the professor helped him with it, and the guy got the funding straight away. Of course, the professor spoke for him. And let me tell you, one of the things I helped this guy is this. Remember, if you follow me on Twitter, I've always said this, try to gain research experience as much as possible. Try to gain research experience. What this guy did while he was an undergraduate, he wrote to one of his professors here in Nigeria. I think he went to University of Lagos, and he told the professor, I want to work in your lab just to gain experience. Nothing special, just to gain experience. I'm not seeking that my name should be written in papers. I'm not seeking that to get paid. Just I want to work in your lab. And this guy started working in the professor's lab as an undergraduate. Well, his name was written in some of the papers that were published. He started gaining experience. When he finished, he continued working with the lab. And by the time he finished, he was already preparing for conferences to speak. He already had, of course, not first author, but he already has his name in publications. And he has so much experience. So this guy had that leverage and he used it. If you're an undergraduate here, what I would advise you to do is start gaining those experiences as much as possible. You will definitely need them. Those experiences make professors attached to you, attracted to you. For example, my friend I said is in Yale. One of the things that I tried professors to him, he got admitted in like 5 or 6 schools, big schools. One of the things that I tried the professors to him was that he was doing a research in Nigeria, in Ibadan, University of Ibadan, and then he went to India again to continue the research work. So he was researching, and then look, that's attractive. Like, oh, this is interesting. This guy is moving around, doing research everywhere. So take those experiences very seriously. It's very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Sonia, this question is for you. Can we ask professors on LinkedIn about their current project or how to use LinkedIn for contacting professors?
I think that I personally endorse using emails over social media like Twitter or LinkedIn to contact professors the first time you're contacting them. So I think your first course of action should be to locate their email. The email can be, the email is generally provided on their website, but you can also find their email on the research papers that they publish, because in the initial part of the paper, you can see information about the authors. And generally, the first and the second authors or the corresponding authors' emails are given within the research paper. So you can find their email from there. But if you are really interested in contacting a professor and you are not able to find their email after you've done a lot of work, although that's very rare, but if you're still not able to find their email, then you can probably see where are they more active. Are they active on Twitter? Are they active on LinkedIn? Have they mentioned anything about how to contact them on Twitter or LinkedIn? Because I've seen a lot of people, they write a tweet about and then they pin it to their profile that if you want to contact me through Twitter or LinkedIn, this is the way to go. This is the format that you have to follow. So you can go ahead and contact professors on Twitter and LinkedIn, but only if you weren't able to contact them through email. And if they haven't responded to your email after a gentle reminder, I would say avoid contacting them on multiple platforms, because it might give a wrong impression about your patience abilities, or about your, the ethic. You have to follow an ethic as an academician, that you can't keep bugging a person because they weren't able to respond to you. So use Twitter, use LinkedIn, but only if you're not able to find their email address.
All right, yeah. So thank you for that, Sam. So patient use emails. That's the best way, I believe, to if you have to contact them on social media or LinkedIn, you can even start by asking how you want to ask how best to contact them. Okay. Because for many that is not official. Okay? That is not official. Let me pick one question again from YouTube. Okay, someone said after writing a code mail to a professor, the person said the professor responded, "Hello, unfortunately, I received too many messages from prospective applicants for me to review them one by one. If you are interested in the graduate programs offered by blah, blah, blah department at the name of the school, I encourage you to check the online page for prospective students. Thanks for expressing um, interest in my research and best of luck with your application." Okay, for me, it basically means the professor has been receiving so many messages, and You just want students to follow what is on ground by the department, what the department has laid down. Most likely, the admissions in the department is not by receiving prospective advisor. That's one thing. For example, most schools in the US actually, it's not compulsory for you to have a prospective advisor before you can apply. You can always apply. It's just good for you if you have one. They can speak for you during the admission process that this person, this guy is my student. We've discussed to a certain level, and of course you can have you can be certain that when you land, you have a research group you are joining straight away. Okay, so aside that, it does not, you can apply for the admission for the funding without having a prospective advisor. So that professor might be tired of receiving mails, or is just not receiving recruiting students, or it can be different things. Okay, of course that shouldn't discourage you from writing to other professors if you think that their interest resonates with yours. That shouldn't discourage you from writing to them. Write to other professors. That is maybe personal to the professor. Okay, the professor just saying, "Come on, don't disturb me. Just apply when you get here. If you're interested in me, come to me." Something like that. Other professors might be interested in recruiting students. For example, in our lab now, we actually need students. Okay, so if students are contacting my professors, I know they will respond. Even though you don't, to get into my department, you don't need to have a prospective advisor. But we actually need students, so that if students contact us, contact our professors, they actually want to take them in. I believe they will have discussion with such students. We are short of students. Okay, so it happens. I know there are some departments, yeah, for example, in those in condensed matter physics, for example, so many students want to do condensed matter physics, and then they may have too much students writing to them, so many students writing to them, that they just tell them, "Come on, just apply, get here, and then come if you want to join our group." Okay, so that may be the case. Don't be discouraged. Write to other professors in that school if you need to. But it simply means that they admit students without actually having a prospective advisor, which is common to many schools in the US. But I know Canada is a bit different. In Canada, you must have a prospective advisor before they can actually take you in Canada. In US, it's quite different. So you want to respond to that? Maybe say something on that.
Yeah, I think it's about patience. Again, it's about consistency. You don't have to be discouraged from applying to other professors, because you must realize that there is no correlation or causation. It's not as if Professor X is not replying, Professor Y won't reply either. And um, this actually hampers a lot of students, because we tend to think that there is something wrong with our research ideas, or there is something wrong with us, or is there something wrong with the profile. That's rarely the case, and it's mostly about the professor. It's mostly about their life than it is about yours. So
Yeah.
please go ahead, keep applying. But if you are not receiving, if you've sent, let's say, 10 emails, and if you haven't been responded to for even one of the emails, then maybe you would like to reach out to your current professors, because your current professors probably also receive emails, or they have probably written such emails in the past. And it's always helpful to have your emails reviewed by someone that you trust, by an academic that you trust, by someone that you adore, for their writing skills. And that's how you can keep improving and upgrading. That's how I upgraded my emails, because I showed my email to my supervisor that, look, this is what I've been writing, and he told me, you're writing an essay, I wouldn't call it an email. So yeah, get your emails, get your feedback, and keep applying.
All right. Teslim, you said I've been writing code emails and I've got no reply. Can we have a code email samples? I think the two questions have been answered. The samples she has written, she put what do you call it? Twitter ID, username as the
Yeah,
chat.
I also
Uh,
posted a link to my tweet, which consists of the cold email sample. You can find that link here in the chat
good,
box.
good, good. Okay. Um, So someone is saying, I have cold emailed a professor who said he was looking for students, and he replied me positively. He told me to apply and he will review my file in winter. Now I have tried to reach him twice to hold a virtual meeting with him, but haven't got any reply back. What can I do? Sonia, help me, please.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I think what happens sometimes is that when you ask a professor for an online meeting or a virtual meeting, it is a very uh, time intensive
Yeah.
task for them, right? Because when you have a meeting with the professor, they have a lot going on already and they have to dedicate a huge amount of time. For them, 30 minutes and 40 minutes matters a lot. Okay. So I hope that you didn't, request them sending the email within a very short period of time. I mean, if you requested them for a virtual meeting, I hope that you explained to them why you required the virtual meeting. Because if you just said that I would like to have a virtual meeting with you without having explained that I want to discuss this in the virtual meeting, then they are unlikely to respond. That's one thing. And secondly, I don't think that there is necessarily a need for a virtual meeting for you, because if the professor has said that they will review your profile, it means that they want you to work on whatever ideas you have, and then you send them your work, and only then will they be able to refine your SOP or refine your documents. So they want to see your work first before they can provide any feedback, which is probably why they weren't able to respond to your request for a meeting. Or if you have, that's one thing, that's one way to go about it, is that you send your document to them and then you receive their feedback. Another thing could be, if you have questions about what to write in the SOP, if you have questions about their research work, their current projects, then instead of reaching out to the professor, contact the grad students, right?
Yeah.
Have a request them for a meeting, because they have been in the same boat as you currently. So if somebody contacts me on Twitter for a meeting, if I'm working in a professor's lab, I worked in India, in a very reputed professor's lab, and I used to get requests for meetings, and I've attended those. I've been on calls, I've been on Zoom meetings. I will be able to tell you more from my perspective, and I will be able to probably tell you, the current projects that we are going to be working on, as compared to the professor, because they probably don't even have the time to respond.
Mhm.
So that's the second way to go about it. Talk to the grad school students, seek their feedback if you like, and don't email the professor too much, because it is not, again, I would like to say that there's some etiquette, some email etiquette, some academic etiquette that you have to follow.
All right. Yeah, and you should know again that if he has said he's going to do, review it, he probably has in mind. Yeah, and when you write your SOP, you can include in your SOP that you have contacted Professors XYZ. Okay, and then mention that you're interested in his research work and you have contacted him. Mentioning that when professors' names are mentioned in SOP, sometimes or many times, at least from what I know here, they make the professor aware such that they want to check, okay, is this actually true? And the professor can say, oh, yeah, that's true. But of course, if the professor is really, really interested in you, the professor would have been mentioning your name even before they contact the professor that, oh, I have a student there. Okay.
Right.
Want to say something, Sam?
No, I think that pretty much sums up. I mean, that pretty
Yeah,
much sums up what I believe. Yeah. That's the way to go about it, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Um, let me see. So many questions. Okay, someone said, can I have sample of it? Yeah, we've discussed that. What do you think? Okay, yeah, we've discussed that. Can we change our research interest? We talked about that. Okay, you might want to, you are watching on YouTube, so you might want to um, watch it again or play that part again. Basically, we mentioned that you can change your research interest. Your research interest can change. Let me use that word. And then we mentioned, give example of different people who had changed research interest over time. Sonia herself as an example. Even myself, what I wrote in my SOP was not what I'm eventually doing now. Okay, the professor I thought I would work with, I'm not working with the professor now. I'm working with another professor. And in fact, from different backgrounds, you can actually change it totally. We've seen people who change from sociology to public health, physics to data science, mathematics to data science, from education to data science, mechanical engineering to education, and all those stuff you can actually change. All right. Honestly, I'm studying quantitative life sciences at ICTP. Okay, can I apply for condensed matter? Yes, of course. I know ICTP. I got a scholarship at ICTP in Italy too, but I didn't go. I chose US. So you can actually do condensed matter. I know ICTP is more of theoretical stuff, except for the medical physics there. They do more of theoretical physics, but you can actually apply for condensed matter. Yeah, you can. And by the way, if I ask, what's your undergraduate background before getting to ICTP? That may also um, be a factor. Quantitative life sciences, you can. Yeah. Okay. Another question. Let's pick from Zoom. Someone is saying, can you tailor your email for a master's student who doesn't have an earlier research proposal slash area? This, the master's student doesn't have a research area.
Yes.
You don't have what you're trying to say is you don't have a research experience. Okay, I think that's what the person is trying to say.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes. Yeah. So I think that the thing with master's program is that if you're applying for a research-based master's, basically if you're applying for a master's program which will require you to submit a thesis in the second year of your master's, then yes, I mean it's uh, it's actually okay not to have a research experience, because in a lot of countries research is not given a lot of importance during their undergraduate careers. So if
very
you
true.
do not, yeah, right, so if you're not acquainted, if you're not um, that strong with the research experience, nevertheless you can be very strong with your research insights, with your research ideas, with your research proposals. So let's say that you're contacting a professor, you have to follow the same format like before, but instead of saying that I have research experience in social psychology or I have research experience in cognitive psychology, you can say that I am interested in social psychology, or I am interested in cognitive psychology. Or you can go ahead by saying that I have been reading your work on this field for the last these many months or years or whatever is applicable, and say that these are the research directions which have propelled me to pursue a master's to get a better hang of research on these questions, and these are the research directions I would like to pursue. So it's not a crime not to have a research experience. Okay, it's not because of you that you don't have a research experience. It's sometimes also because of the systemic problems that we have in academia, with some countries having an advantage, while other countries do not have that kind of funding which can encourage undergraduate research. So I think pretty much remains the same in the cold email. Instead of writing that I've worked on this or I have been working on this, you just write that I'm interested in this, or I find your work on this really aspirational or inspirational, or whatever is your thought about it.
All right, let me share my experience in this regard too. The first application I wrote, the first statement of purpose I wrote, I didn't have research area in what I wanted to do. I didn't have, research experience in what I wanted to do, condensed matter physics. And I tried to link what I have done with condensed matter physics. It was a tough job. I was trying to link it together just to show that, oh, I have some experiences. But again, eventually, I don't think that is a good idea. The second SOP I wrote, I eventually told them, I don't have any research experience in this regard. I said, however, I have gained research skills while working on X, Y, Z. And I started mentioning those things I did. I mentioned that I gained research skills working on something else. And I told them, I believe I've gained what is valuable enough for me to be able to fit in into this new thing I'm having interest in. Okay, so basically I told them, I don't have research experience in this area. I don't. But I have research experience here and I've gained such skills that I believe will enable me to be able to excel in this other area. Because the truth is, wherever you get to, they will have to, even if you have research experience in it, they will have to teach you the basics again from the beginning. For example, we in our lab now, we have a postdoc. He just arrived from India. And then for me, he has a PhD. I'm just starting my third year. I have to, he has to depend on me right? To move around in the lab to show him things. Okay, this is how we do things here. This is how we do this. This is what we do. This detector, this, that. You understand? Wherever you get to, they will still have to show you how they do things, irrespective of the experience you have, because their methodology may be completely different from what you are used to, even if you have research experience in that particular area, or their setup may just be different. Okay, so it's not a crime. It's not a crime. Everybody knows you have to be taught again and again, and you are good to go, I tell you. All right, let me pick a question from YouTube again. Someone said, I'm trying to get a remote internship in a research lab, but not many labs are interested in taking such interns. Is there a way to know from the website if the professor is taking remote interns?
Um, yeah.
So yeah, let me allow you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I think that's a very tricky one because these kinds of positions are not very traditional in academia. Especially, they're becoming more of the norm these days only because of COVID. But otherwise, people tend to have physically working assistants or interns in their labs. So what you can do is that if this kind of an information is not present on the website, you can still reach out to them. And the way that you write that cold email, and that you want a remote experience with them, and you're not looking for a PhD, but you're looking for a research experience or a research assistantship, that is another ball game altogether. Because the way that you present yourself in that email has to talk about why you want to gain research experience with them. What are you planning to do? Are you planning to pursue a PhD, or are you planning to
Mm.
pursue a master's? And yeah, I mean, probably you can just go ahead and say that I am a person doing this. I am interested in your work because I found these things fascinating. I would like to upgrade, or I would like to upskill myself by collaborating with you on this theme. If you have any you don't have to say if you have any positions, because when you attach the word positions, what it means is that the thing that you're looking for pay. Okay. And
Mhm.
generally, because of a lot of legal issues, because of a lot of technicalities, they might not be able to compensate you financially for those kinds of positions, because if they had the funds, they would have advertised it. So maybe you don't want financial compensation as of now. All you want is a collaboration. So don't use the word research position. You say that I have these many skills, and I would be, if you have any scope for remote collaboration on this, kindly let me know. And you attach your CV, and you just write that I'm skilled at reviewing literature, I'm skilled at data analysis, because that's what you can probably do as a remote researcher. Or if you're working in social sciences, you can talk about, I have an experience in conducting online experiments, I have an experience in editing the manuscripts. There are so many aspects of collaborating, data collection, so much. So you can tell them that you are looking for a research collaboration rather than a position. uh,
All right, yeah. So it's basically cold email them. That's the same thing. That's how. That's the only way you can know, by sending them a message
yes.
to see what is available there. Of course, it's not so common having it remotely. Yeah, I know. Even at that, who says it's not possible? It's not possible. This is during this COVID. We've seen some of these seemingly impossible positions become available. All right.
Yes.
So someone saying, should I get a reply and an interview appointment with a professor? Please, what are the expected discussion during this interview? Oh, that is a long one. Basically,
I,
all we've been
yeah.
saying. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was just going to add, I'm so sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say that yesterday only I wrote this tweet. Please, what are the expected discussion during this interview? So if you get a reply and an interview appointment with the professor, I have shared a tweet on what all you can expect to be asked
Mm.
and what else they can expect to ask you. And I'm going to share the link to that tweet right away as we are discussing. So this is basically a tweet about your potential supervisor and uh, you before you formally apply to the program. So here you go. Here your questions will be answered.
So yeah, those on YouTube are revolting that all the links you are sharing is only for those on
Oh,
Twitter. I mean
okay.
on Zoom. Let me see. I should be able to copy those links.
Yes.
Uh, okay. So I'm sharing some of the links Shaya is posting. I mean, it's
Just two links.
okay. I just shared one on okay. Then have you shared the second one? The second link,
Uh,
Shaya?
So I shared one at 8:13. I'm sorry. I mean,
Oh,
I
okay,
it
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, let me like okay, yeah, I can see it. For code email samples.
Yes, yes. And you can also share my username with them in case they want to reach out. You can share the username I'm posting again. Here it is. You can DM
All right.
me. Yeah.
All right. DM Sonia, DM I've personally I've not been able to respond to a lot of DMs. It's been so difficult keeping up with them. Okay, so DM Sonia, she will respond. She will respond.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see. So yeah, you can also check my page under my pin tweets. I have written on what you can expect during interviews to how to prepare and all those stuff. Basically, they're everything we've been saying. Uh, yeah. So you can check a tweet, check mine, check other people's um, take on that on Twitter too. I mean, Twitter has become like a university for learning these days.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, someone saying, what are the entry requirements into a PhD program for a student with only a bachelor's degree? If I'll answer that, for US, for example, many of the students entered PhD program with a bachelor. Okay, and the reason is this: in the sciences, for example, the PhD is 5 years. It usually consists of something like a PhD, BS, I mean, an MSc and a PhD combined together. Okay, so it's more like you can opt out after 2 years and get your MSc, your master's degree. You can decide to continue and wait for 5 years and get your PhD degree. So in the US, for example, it's basically the same thing. I've seen many people from Nigeria get their PhD with a bachelor's degree. Of course, but your bachelor's degree must be very strong. Your CGPA must be strong. You must have some other qualities that stand you out. Okay, the person I know, good grade, I think he had a 2-1, not a first class, but he had a strong GRE score, very strong GRE score, and I think he has been involved in some other things too. So you can actually um, get it. It's very possible. So it's not a special requirement. It's just let your degrees be a good one, something outstanding. You should stand out. So I want to answer that. So you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, the bachelor's, after doing a bachelor's, it's kind of a norm in the US. I don't think a lot of students are required to have a master's degree before they apply for a PhD, because what happens is that in the US, I think undergrads happen to have a lot of research experience, research assistantships in the fourth year or the third year of their graduation. So a master's is not a necessity for them. But in case if you've had an undergrad experience but you didn't receive a lot of research exposure during your graduation, then maybe you want to consider doing a master's, and that will let you know if you're actually willing for a PhD, because masters is a midway, it's a bridge that will tell you that this is the taste of research, this is how it looks like, these are the challenges which you will encounter in your PhD. So, if you have had enough experience in your bachelor's, please go ahead and apply for a PhD. But if you're unsure, then I would suggest you to do a master's.
In fact, even if you have an MSc, what I always advise is mix the application. Apply for MSc, apply for PhD. I have a friend, we both had an MSc from Nigeria. He did an MSc again in UK, then he applied to US. In US, he applied for MSc, PhD, all those. He applied for everything together, even though he already has 2 MScs, okay? So he still applied for everything together. So mix it, um, of course, be strategic to not just applying. I know people who've had 2, 3 MSCs and they still get funded for another MSc. Okay, though a different research area. It's just about proving that, yeah, you're interested in this, you actually want to do this. Okay,
Yes.
there's a question. Do you have a second class? I have a second class lower. In Nigeria, there's a grade. I don't know, is that the same classification in India? First class, second class, or pass, second class, lower? Sonia, is that the same classification in India?
Just a second. I didn't really get it. Where is this message? Let me have a look because I wasn't able to understand.
Oh,
Um,
on YouTube.
oh, it's on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm mixing messages on Twitter, I mean on Zoom and YouTube. Depends that I have
Okay.
a second class lower CGPA from Nigeria. Can I still get admission to study for my master's in the US? What are my chances? So I was asking you, do you have the same grades in India, same first class, second class upper, second class
Um,
lower?
I think we used to have such a thing, but these days, we don't have this. We only have CGPA or a grade point scale where we are graded on a scale of 10.
Okay.
So earlier, how it used to be that if you've scored above 60%, above 60%, you would be given a distinction, right? It means that you're first class or, distinction, you've attained a distinction. And then, yeah, the second class will come below 60% and stuff like that. But it's not prevalent anymore in mainstream academia for our generation. We get our scores on a 10-point scale.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically, I must say, people with second class lower get funded in the US, so you can actually apply 2.5, 4 out of 5.0 CGPA. Your transcript will still be converted to whatever scale they want, okay? And in converting that, there's a lot of things that happens to your transcript. There's a way grade points are calculated here that we don't do in Nigeria. For example, in Nigeria, if you fall sick and you are unable to write an exam, the exam you just have 0 as a point there. Here, if something like that happens and when you retake the course, the old one is wiped away. It won't be used as, it won't be calculated in your transcript. When in Nigeria, we use that, and then all those things make your CGPA becomes very low. But here, once you take away the 0, your CGPA is still standing. So some of those factors affect, and when they do all those conversion, you'll be surprised that your CGPA will stand the test of stand the test. Let me just use that word. Okay, so don't be afraid. We've seen so many people with second class lower get funding. So I can say you have some chances. You have some chances. Okay, let's pick another question from Zoom. Someone is saying, can we attach manuscript research work in code emails even when they are not published because of financial issues?
Um, I think that if you've not published them, I think that it's still not a formal document really to attach. If you really want to talk about it, you can talk about it in your CV that these are the manuscripts under consideration or these are the manuscripts under preparation. And you can add a link to that manuscript in a Google Drive folder or on a OneDrive and attach it to your CV. So if the professor is interested in reading about your research work under consideration or under preparation, then they will have a look at it through the email link that you have hyperlinked. So that's how I would go about it.
And just wait, if the professor asks you to send
Yes.
uh,
The writing
just
sample.
yeah, so if you don't send it aside your CV, don't send anything else until you're asked to send it, because that's not even not a formal application in the first place. Okay, so just for example, when I was desperate and I was applying everywhere, I was discussing with a professor in South Africa, and the professor asked me to send something I've done before. I didn't have a research, I didn't have a publication. All I had was my project, my MSc project. So I wrote a summary. I have a summary of my research and I sent it to him. Even though he contacted me this year, that's like 3 years after, 3 or 4 years after. saying, okay, are you ready? Let's do the PhD. And I told him, I'm ready in the US. Very funny. All right. Now let's pick someone else from YouTube. Some, oh my. Okay, some schools already state on their website that they fund their grad students in situations like this. Do we still have to code email professors? Let me answer then, so I will answer. Yes, you can code email professors, even when they state that they are funding out their students. The reason why you are code emailing is not only to secure funding from the professor, is to secure interest from the professor also, such that during the admission committee, they review. Many professors have a say on this. The professors will talk, oh, this one contacted me, oh, this one, this. Because some professors can, even when your documents, your application documents are not strong enough, some professors, because of the interaction they've had with you, can vouch for you and say, no, this guy, I think we can bring him in. I think it will do great. We think it will do, because of your interaction. Okay, not necessarily because they want to fund you, not necessarily because you will actually work with them eventually, but because of the interactions they've had with you, they can say that yes, you have some strength. So it's still good to send cold emails to professors, uh, even when the department states that they fund all graduate students that they admit. Okay, because they may speak for you during that process of choosing, of selection. Sonia, please.
Yes. I think that's true. I mean, the professor that I had reached out to, he himself said this on the call itself, that he would do whatever he can within his power to push my application. And when I submitted my application, he emailed me saying that he will put in a good word for me, and that's why I got, I think, personally think because of my interaction with the professor, I was able to get into a PhD position. Although I didn't take that offer because I had another better offer, but I did get it. And the professor has the power to say a lot of good things about you, even if you don't hold up to the requirements of the committee. Because I didn't really have research experience in the field I applied for. But because of my interaction with the professor, he got to know that I hold the acumen, or I hold the potential to do well, even if I don't have the experience. So do get your cold emailing thing job done, and have a good impression on the professor that you want to work with.
Good. All right, let's pick another one from Zoom. What happens if professors are not available for the course you chose, plus the course options as well? Is there any other options to take to either change a particular professor's mind about taking an extra student? Uh, I'm not sure what this question is actually
Yeah.
saying. What happens if a professor is not available for a course chose plus? Are you trying to say if you have an option and then the professor's research interest is not in that area? Because in the first place, you can't change the professor's mind to do research in a particular area, or you can't change the professor's mind to take you as a student when you are doing something in a different research area. So if that is what you're saying, you can't change the professor's mind. And you can't also change the professor's mind. Someone who already has students, you want them to take extra students. There is budget for everything. Okay. Taking students is in terms of money. You see, when you're taking on students, the professors are thinking in terms of money too. They are thinking, my research grants, how much can I afford? How many students can I afford? Many, and again, the department too. A professor can't take 6 students when another professor has just 1 student. Everything has to be balanced. Okay, so if a professor says you can't take more students, move on, check another professor. If they say what you want to do does not align with what you are proposing, just move on. Okay, you can't change their mind on these issues. I think that's the way I understand your question.
Yes, same here.
All right, let's see a question from YouTube again. Oh, someone said, sent me a draft. Sam, I sent you a draft of my email that was meant to be sent to a professor. You haven't reviewed it. Oh, okay, I will check it. Please just send me a reminder, whichever platform you use, either Twitter or um, or WhatsApp, whichever platform you use. I will. Dr. Isbala Job is saying, good job, my people. Doki, you are welcome. We greet you, sir. Okay. Rashidat, you are raising up your hand.
Sorry?
Someone is raising up the hand. I wanted to see.
Oh,
Okay, let me just move on with the questions here. We'll come back to that. Um, is there a possibility of funding for full PhD? Can I do a master's degree in another field after PhD? Yes, we have mentioned that there's possibility of full funding, and yes, you can do as many masters as you love. That is if you have reasons to do it. Okay. Now I must make this clear. There are some fundings that are in form of scholarships and some general in form of assistantship. Anybody can come and say, oh, I want to do an assistantship, this and that, and then you have to review your background to see if you are fit for it. If you have good reasons why you want another master's, even though you have a PhD, yeah, they will admit you. Of course, there are some scholarships that will particularly say that those with a certain degree, in fact, some scholarship, when you have a master's degree, you cannot apply for master's again for some scholarships. For some, for example, it applies to some schools. So when you have a BSc, you cannot apply for a BSc there again. Okay, but if you have a good reason for an MSc, even after you have a PhD, yes, you can. It's possible. I know someone who is doing um, masters in business now, even though he already has a PhD in engineering. He said to me, he said, he wants to go the way of business. Then he's doing, I'm not sure if it's funded or not. I don't actually know, but it's actually possible. Any view to that, Sonia?
yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, you can definitely do a master's. Especially, what happens is that when you do a PhD, which is of a more theoretical nature, if you want to do a professional master's, like a master's of business administration or, executive MBA, you can definitely go ahead and give a good reason for why you want to do a master's all over after a PhD.
Okay, so let me pick on YouTube again. I've checked it, tried checking the maximum word count for PhD SOP in some US universities, but I couldn't find it on their website. What should be the maximum word count? Okay, so basically, what I've seen in US university about word count, how long should your SOP be? Some don't say, okay, some give the guidelines, many don't say. For me, um, um, I have the general view. That's my own general view. Don't let it be too long. Okay. Remember, you have people reading your SOP. They have so many applications, and they're just skimming through reading and saying, okay, what is the important point we can see here? For me, the maximum should be 2 pages. 12 Word document using the font size 12. And that is even maximum 2 pages. What I usually recommend is like 1.5 page. Okay,
Right.
that is what I believe. So I don't know if you have anything different uh,
No, I think it's the same. I mean, follow the guidelines if there are any. Otherwise, try to keep it as compact as possible. If not,
as
for
possible.
any.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you can't write a 5 page, 7 page um, SOP statement of purpose, and I mean that's too much. What are you writing? 7 pages. Okay,
Yes.
someone is saying this for someone who has worked for a few years after graduation. Is it important to point it out in the mail, especially when the job do not relate to the course you studied? Let me allow Sonia to go for this. Someone has worked for a few years. It's not actually related to what you want to study. Should you point it out that you actually have such work experience?
Actually, you know what? I think that when you're applying for a PhD position after having had some work experience, which is not related to your field of PhD, then you don't have to highlight it necessarily. I mean, why do you want to just talk about why you want to do a PhD despite having worked in another area altogether? Is it because it excited you while you were working on your job? Or is it because you always wanted to do it, but you had to do a job because of financial reasons? Maybe that was the case, but you don't have to give them reasons, or you don't have to highlight reasons that you're not suited for a PhD in this field. You have to give them reasons. What is it that caused you to divert from a full time job in field A to a PhD in field Z, right? So, if I did a job in hotel management, and if I were interested in psychology as a PhD major, I would then probably go ahead and say that, look, I have worked in management for so many years, and what I have observed is that some people tend to be very aggressive, other people tend to be very hospitable, yet another people tend to be neutral. That has inspired me to study different behaviors, and that's why I want to do a PhD. I won't talk about that my hotel management and my PhD aren't related, because they already know that. So give them reasons to draw a connection between these two transitions, rather than just, pushing them off away from you.
Right. Yeah. So basically, I used to make this joke on Twitter. I say you don't have any reason telling a professor of physics that you have experience in photography, except maybe you're working on light anyway, and you have to do something related. But saying, or you have an experience in modeling and say, oh, I want to study physics, and you start going into the details of the modeling or details of the photography.
Yeah.
So in your application, stick to what is related, okay?
Yes.
And then if you can link it in a very simple way, yeah, link it, just as Sonia said, hotel management, you've seen people's behavior, and then a simple relationship. Yeah, that's very good. Don't try too much to link what cannot be linked. Okay, that's the point. Don't try to link. Some things cannot just be linked. Just leave it at, for example, what I said in my SOP. I said, I don't have any experience in this thing, even though I have done research work in this area, and I gained some skills. We don't try to link it and try to say from what I did here, I discovered I have to do this. I discovered now it led me to just be simple. You don't have to put everything about you in the application.
Right.
Okay. So Sonia, someone on YouTube is saying, the person I think is trying to apply to clinical psychology, and the person needs help in reviewing his SOP. The person is E. Okay. So you can contact Sonia. I already put username there. So contact her.
Yes,
I believe
absolutely.
she'll be willing to review the CV for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do another one from Zoom. Okay, this is particular to me. Sam, do you have any tips for physics PhD applicants who are applying this year? There's always this imposter syndrome, which I'm currently facing during the application process and coding meeting. How did you overcome those? Sonia, can you also give this some insight? Okay, see, the thing is, just be you. The experience you've had is what you've had. You cannot try to be someone else. Okay, let your own personality, let um, your own reality, your own experiences, let it be what is reflected in the application. For example, when I applied for PhD, I didn't have any publication. Okay, I didn't have any publication. I applied to a school twice before I wasn't admitted the first time, but I was convinced that this is where I should go. I applied there a second time, and that was when I was chosen. Okay, so just be you, be real. Okay, if you already have your CGPA, you're great. You cannot change it. It's constant. You may want to build your profile a bit and then do well in your exam, your GRE exam. You may want to do that, but you are just you. You may want to gain more experience, probably as an intern somewhere. But aside that, you are just you. Okay, just be
Yes.
real. Don't try to be someone else. When you are
Exactly.
writing your SOP, let that flow too.
Yes.
Let that flow too. You are just you. You cannot be someone else. Okay.
Yeah.
If the school will choose you, they will choose you. If not, even when you see that syndrome, it's still even possible after you get funding, after you get the admission, because you may want to try to prove to the advisor like you know it. You want to try to prove to be who you are actually not. No, just be you. No one knows it all. Everyone has that knowledge gap, that barrier. Um, there is a limitation for everyone. Okay, so just be you. Just be you. That's all I have. I'm telling you, it's very simple. It's what we hear everywhere, but for me, that's what works. See, the first writing, academic writing I did for my BSc project, I was depressed when the professor wrote different comments, everything in red, different comments. I was almost depressed, like, oh my goodness. But see, I just came to realize that, see, I can't change who I am. If I have to develop, if I have to grow, I have to open myself up. Those faults, yes, let them see it. And they know that, yes, these are faults that needs to be mended. These are faults that needs to be fixed. Myself,
Yes.
when I open myself up, I know that this is what I need to fix. Okay, I open myself up and you just go that you do very well. You start doing better. Okay, so in your application, just be you. You learn on the job. You become better. Okay, and that's why there is this um, platform for everyone to learn, for people to learn, share their experiences, their opinions, and all those stuff. Yeah, Sonia, your insight, please.
Yeah, I think the best way to deal with imposter syndrome is not to be an imposter. And, I mean, just like Sam said, that you just have to be authentic. And what will you gain in the long term by being someone else? Because at the end of the day, there is a limit to which you can project yourself as someone that you're not. And about feeling that you're being an imposter, I think you're being too harsh on yourself. Try not to be so harsh on yourself. I mean, just academia, PhD, masters, all these things are just a part of your life. Okay. And when we fixate too much on something, then no matter how talented we are, we might think that we are not suitable to it, because there is no end to thinking, there is no end to qualifications. You might start to
Mhm.
compare yourself with people who got ahead of you, and they were much better than you, and you still got at the same platform as those people. The
Yeah,
mistake that you're doing is that you're comparing yourselves to other. Instead of comparing yourself to other, compare yourself to what you were a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and how far have you come. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, Chinon, so you're saying how can we get samples in Nigeria? Are you on LinkedIn as Twitter is banned in Nigeria? First question, how did you get to know about the meeting? We shared it on Twitter. So someone must have used VPN to access Twitter and then shared it with you. Just kidding. Um, Samples, I don't know. Sonia, you
Yeah,
have
of course.
LinkedIn
I have LinkedIn.
profile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have a LinkedIn profile. You can send, this would be by name on LinkedIn, Sanya Jen.
Yeah.
You can send me a message on LinkedIn if you want. Just a second. I have to reply to everyone. Yeah, go ahead, please, and send me a message.
Okay, so Sonia is on. I'm not very active on LinkedIn, but I have some of this I've shared on Facebook too. You can search my name on Facebook. It's my page. I have a page that I recently opened on Facebook. I've not been active there, but all these important documents that I share on Twitter, I try to share it there as much as possible. So you can check it there too. I'm not active on LinkedIn. I just go there to accept invitations, and that's all. All right. And as someone has said, friends use VPN to access Twitter. So they already said that you are not breaking the law if you use VPN. So the Attorney General is not going to charge you. One is arresting you. All right. Someone is asking, does research experience means only publication? No, of course, no, no. You can talk about the research experience you've had. You don't need to have a publication to talk about that. Yeah. I think that's
Ah,
obvious from the discussion we've had
yes.
so far.
Yes, I think I've written again a tweet on how to, uh, you know, understand your own research potential and how to highlight your own research potential despite having no publications, because publications is the end product of your research experience. It's not
Yeah,
everything, because your research experience begins the moment you start to ideate a research idea in your head. And the projects that you've been a part of, even if you haven't been directly associated with the project, you've had an experience in the lab, if you've observed certain skills, all these make you a researcher. A researcher is not just made by his publications, he's made by the action that he does, by the thoughts that he has. So yeah, you can have your research experience without a publication.
okay. So same person is asking, is it easy to get funded MSc position as compared to funded PhD? Yes, you can get funded MSc, but of course there are more funded PhD than funded MSc, because at that level, PhD is more research. But you can also get funded MSc. There are a lot of that everywhere. So yeah, this question is specifically for you now. This said, my university gives CGPA on 10-point scale. How can I convert to a 4-point scale? There are different websites having different conversion. I have 8.5 on the 10-point scale. Will it count as a first class grade BSc? So yeah,
Okay.
that's for you.
Yeah.
That's Indian style.
Yeah, so I don't think you need to convert anything, because what happens with most universities is that your transcript would already mean that a grade means something. So if 8 means A according to your university, then it would have been written in your transcript. So when you upload your transcript as a part of your application procedure, then they will be able to understand, okay, you've gotten an A. 8 means A, 7 means B. If you have been asked to convert it, then they will also tell you how to convert it. And if they're only telling you just convert it, and if you don't know how to convert it, then you can contact the grad school coordinator of that department, whose email IDs are generally given on the website. But in most cases you wouldn't be asked to convert on your own, because while making decisions, the admission committees in most cases will be able to determine how you stand with respect to other uh, other fellows that you're competing with. So you don't need to worry too much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they will do all this for you. So same, almost the same question here on YouTube. Someone saying 3.8 out of 5. Most schools in Nigeria use 5 as opposed to 10 we use in India. 3.8 is it good enough to get funding for MS Industrial Engineering? Yes, 3.8 I believe is a 2-1, and 3.5 and above is 2-1, 3.5 to 4.4, something there about. So you can, it's good enough for you, I believe. So we have people with 2 getting funded. We have people, those CGPA getting funded. So they will do all those conversions, just like Sonia explained. In Nigeria, for example, A's in many schools start from 70, but here in the US, A is from 90, some 85. Okay, so they will do all those conversion, all those consideration based on what is written on in your transcript. All right, so many questions. Wow, this is interesting. Sonia, are you sure we can finish everything? Are you
I
good to
don't
go?
know. Yeah, sure, we can take as many questions as we can, and if we have too
Okay,
many questions, we can organize a second part to this, and we can have another discussion
yeah.
if that. Yeah.
Okay, let's just move on. We usually target 2 hours, so let's still move on. Let's hope that we will catch up. There are schools in Canada that specifically ask the student not to reach the professors before applying for their program. What can I do in this situation? I mean, if the schools admit students without contacting professors, then that's good. Uh, then you don't need to just obey the instruction. But what I used to know is that many schools in Canada require students to contact their professors. I don't know much about that. Or if the school specifically says don't contact, write a message to them to be able to the graduate coordinator to be able to ascertain if they admit students without contacting professors, or if that's the way it works. Okay, just ask the question. I don't think it should be a problem then if they just admit students without having to contact the professor. So yeah, anything there.
Yeah, I think if you have an instruction that your professor wants you to obey, then you should respect that, and there must be a reason for why they're asking you to do a certain thing or not. So the
Mm.
first thing to establish a good connection will be to probably not establish an external connection with them, right? Because that's not something that they're looking for.
All right. Let's speak from YouTube again. So can you list the materials we need for GRE exam? Okay, so there are so many materials that we've shared out there. Please, you can check our Twitter page. So many materials that you can use for your GRE exam. Please check it. And I think I also did a video recently. Must be a live video where I was mentioning materials that please, all right, where we were talking about materials that you can use for your preparation. Please check it out so that we don't waste time mentioning Magoosh, Kaplan, and all those stuff. Those are some of the materials I've started mentioning now. And I also actually shared the material, GR materials on Twitter too, so you can check it out. So many materials out there. Can you post the Zoom link, please? Oh, someone is asking for the Zoom link. You want to join on Zoom now? Uh, is Zoom more interesting than YouTube? I'll try and post this. Let me get a question, the next question for Sonia to start answering while I get the Zoom link. So someone is saying, I studied biology. I have studies in biology. I have studies in biology subjects like genetics and cell biology. Can I apply to neuroscience for my master?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I was saying that I studied psychology, then I went into neuroscience and I went into genetics, and now I'm coming back to psychology. So it's about how you establish a reason for you hopping from one field to another. And these are anyway very closely associated fields. So I would give you a green light, a green signal, and please go ahead and apply for a neuroscience program.
Yeah, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute, I'm sending the Zoom link. Okay. All right. Yeah, so another question, can we attach our proposed research manuscript if we don't have, okay, someone, we've answered that question. Someone saying, someone, can we have your SOP sample too? Yes, I've shared SOP sample many times, so you can please check my page, uh, check my page, you see SOP samples. I can try and share it again, hopefully if time permits. And try and check it. Someone saying, what's your YouTube ID? I would like to rewatch this meeting on your YouTube page. Okay, so let me share YouTube ID. Okay, just search on YouTube, Sam and the Tunu Ajayi on YouTube. Okay, so just you can search that, you find it on YouTube. All right. Someone is asking, is it too risky to choose a supervisor who is newly appointed professor? From my own view, there's nothing risky there. I mean, there's a new professor does not mean does not know what he's doing. For me, I even love to work with such people because at that point there is this drive for them to produce and they work so hard. They put in more effort in quotes than those very old established professor
Yeah.
because they want to rise. They want to put in much research. My professor, for example, has been, of course, in the research line for a long time in the department, but was not exactly a faculty member. It was a research faculty. And by the time she was appointed the full professor, I mean, by the time she was appointed a faculty member, I joined that straight away, and we are pushing hard like anything. And since it's been a research faculty for a long time, he already has all those collaborations. He has all those links. So we are working so hard. So there's nothing risky there. If you can find one. Yes. And in fact, for me, at that point, they need students. So it's at that point they get to pick you if you request from to be their student. They get to pick you because they don't have any student on ground. Okay, but the full professor, all those old professors, they already have 2, 3, 4 students on ground. So for you to be able to join them, you wait for one student to graduate before you can take the place of that student and all that. So that is the situation. Sonia, anything to add to that? Is it too
No,
risky?
no, it's not. I think, like you were saying, that we sort of think that the older the lab is, the more or the better they are. I think that's the wrong association that we connect. It's probably, you can look at it like this: if it's a new lab, then you can have hands-on experience on the newest technology, which probably
Yeah.
wasn't there in already established lab. And it's easy to bring about changes. It's easy to incorporate your academic or intellectual mindset into a new lab as compared to an existing one which has its traditions all set.
In
So it's
fact,
actually, yeah, yeah.
what she's saying, for me, I've been working with my own ends, with the detectors, with everything that we're doing. I've been working with my own end because I mean, I'm just a student. Many things she wants to say, oh, if there's a student above me, she would have given instruction to the student above me, oh, do this, do that. But I'm the only student. I'm the one she will give the instruction to. Even when I don't know how to do it, I will try to find my way, or she will come there and meet me and we'll do it together. Yeah,
Yeah.
continue. I think I interrupted you when you went in a parallel flow. Yes, sir. I thought I interrupted you when you were
No, no, no.
flowing a particular.
No, that's what I was saying. I think
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah.
Okay. So someone is saying, can we send a code email to more than one professor in the same lab? No. Okay. No, that is it. Because, for example, I told you my professor shared the email she received with me, like, oh, do you know this person? So they share with themselves. And then if you share with Professor A, you share with Professor, you send to Professor A, Professor B, Professor C, and then Professor A says, oh, I received, in fact, it seems students will come to our lab. And Professor is saying, in fact, I received this a message from a student from Nigeria. And Professor B said, Nigeria, I received the same message. Professor said, oh, Nigeria, I received the same message. And they compare the same name and they just, the student is on serious. And you wrote different things to the three of them. So
Yeah.
please, no. If you have to do that, make sure you wait that and you're able to confirm that the professor does not have interest in working with you before you move to another professor. Okay.
True.
So
Absolutely.
you have to wait, not just even in the same lab, in the same department, the same university. Wait to receive a response from the one. Be sure that there's nothing binding you together before you move to another
Next.
professor. Yeah, Sonia, anything there?
No, no, I think, yeah, I mean, that's true. Just wait for a while. And if you don't hear back from them, even after a reminder, put a reminder after the week. And then if you have another professor within the same department, only then go ahead and contact them. Don't do the parallel contacting thing. This is detrimental to your application.
Okay. All right. So another question here on Zoom, how to shortlist US university based on our profile for PhD after 4 years BSc. If the university didn't want GRE, if the university didn't want GRE, how to know whether our profile match with which university. I think the only way to do it is just to, Sonia, please answer that.
Yeah, so I think that if you're applying for a program, the first way to know whether you're fit for that program or whether you're fit with that university is to understand, is that the place which is conducting the same kind of research that you are interested in, because that's the first goal of your applying for the program. So if you and the way that I chose my universities weren't because I wanted to study in the US or I wanted to study in Switzerland. I simply went to Google Scholar, okay, and I knew what I wanted to work on. I wanted to work on wisdom. I typed the neuroscience of wisdom in the search bar, and that's when I got a couple of papers on the neuroscience of wisdom. And when I opened those papers, I could see which universities did these authors belong to. So now I am matching my profile with the university based on my research interest, which is the most crucial aspect of your PhD journey or your research journey, because things like your GRE scores, your TOEFL scores, your undergraduate transcripts, these things are not as, I mean, they are important, but they are not as significant as the main thing that you have to do, which is research. So match yourself to the university based on the research overlaps that you have with the department.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, um, so another question here is, what is the average duration of a PhD program? It depends on where you want to do the PhD program. Different schools have different duration. In the US here, for example, many schools is 5 years for the sciences. I know someone whose PhD program will take only, uh, sorry, 1 minute, please. Okay, so for example, I know someone in the arts whose PhD will only take 4 years, okay? And it also depends on where. In Europe, for example, their PhD is 3 years. So it depends on where you're actually doing the PhD program. Yeah. All right, let's speak from YouTube again. Someone said, I helped my colleague on their project during my undergraduate, but I don't have any publication. I have research experience, but no proof. How do I go about it? I mean, that's your experience, actually. That's why I tell people, if you have worked with someone, that is your experience, okay? Of course, there's no way they can come and confirm and say, did they actually work with this person? It is actually what you can do eventually that we say if you actually have the experience. But if you join in a particular research work, even when your name was not included in the paper, in the article that was published, you still have that research experience. And I believe you can talk about it in your SOP. Of course, not as your own work. Okay? It's just what you join working with. It's just like projects you did during your undergraduate. You can talk about class projects or anything you did that added to your knowledge of the subject matter, what you're trying to apply to or to study. So I believe it's still part of your experience. So yeah, the person
Yeah.
didn't, it's not the person's work, but work with the person, with another senior colleague.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So this person is asking is, can I write that as part of my experience, the work you did with someone else?
Um, I'm not sure. What would you suggest for this one?
So for me, I believe that's part of, still part of the research experience, even though you have no way of saying, because there are class projects we do, right? And those things contribute to our knowledge. Those things contribute to our research experience too. But
Yes.
there's no way you can actually prove that. Okay,
Yes.
so because probably you did it 2 or 3 years ago as an undergraduate, but you actually gained something from those projects. So I think you can mention it, of course, not as your own work, but as part of the work
Yes.
you participated in, part of the
Yes.
work you contributed in.
Yeah,
So
I think that you can probably talk about it in the sense that how it contributed to your current research aspirations, like Sam was saying, because I talked about in my SOP that I was sitting in a social psychology class where I got to know about this is how we persuade people. And that's what intrigued me to understand what strategies we can use in marketing, what strategies we can use in health and education to persuade people to do the right action. So although this wasn't really a research work which
mhm,
gave rise to my current PhD aspirations, but it was a class project or it was a class discussion that led to an insight. So an
yeah,
insight doesn't have to come inside a lab. An insight can
yeah,
come at any point, whether you asleep. An insight can also come just before you fall asleep, right? So research experience can happen outside of the perimeters of publications, universities, labs. It can happen anywhere.
yeah, yeah. Okay, someone is asking, so someone who's schooled in Nigeria, my concern is this, we have to do West evaluation since they still require a transcript. No, you don't have to do West evaluation. It's not compulsory, except if the school asks you to do a West evaluation. Many
Yes.
schools will ask you to just submit your unofficial transcript and they will evaluate it themselves. And then probably after admission, they ask you to submit the official transcript. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. If the school doesn't ask you to submit a West evaluation. Okay.
Yes.
So Sonia, this is for you. So Sonia, ma'am, as you have studied psychology, can you tell me how to stop thinking, to stop overthinking about our admission process? Okay, Sonia,
Yeah,
let's do it to
yeah,
you.
I think just don't take it too seriously. I mean, life is too short and unpredictable for us to take things too seriously that they make us overthink about stuff. Because 2 years ago, we had so many plans. That's where we'll travel, that's where we'll pursue our higher studies, that's where we'll attend a conference. And what happened? I mean, the COVID came in unpredictably and it has actually uh, disrupted our lives altogether. So, one way to succeed in life and one way to succeed in any endeavor that you want to take is to maintain a healthy distance from that aspiration, because the greatest cause of suffering comes from when you become too emotionally attached. Think about it. I mean, is this the only thing about your life? Is this the only thing that gives you happiness in life? What are the other sources of your happiness? Focus on that and make your research, academia, PhD only a part of it, because you are more than what you do. You're more than your career, you're more than your relationships, you're more than anything else. You are an individual, so focus on yourself, focus on your hobbies. That's how you can maintain a healthy distance with any task that you want to succeed in.
Right, good. That's from the psychologist. All right, someone saying from YouTube, does age of the applicant matter? Um, Generally, why being considered for admission? We have a master 6 years ago. No, actually, for example, for assistantship in the US generally, application to school, no one cares about the age. We have 40 plus people. I know 40 plus people who are studying, who are doing their MSc, PhD. Okay, but now when you talk about some general scholarship like Erasmus Mundus, like Chevney scholarship, like some other scholarships, some of them put age limits. They put, is it 30 for masters, 35 for PhD? Okay, but when you're talking about just applying to schools, like schools in US for the assistantships, usually there is no age limit, so you're free to go. Now you're asking again, am I saying when I mentioned the lack of experience I had in a certain area, am I saying you can include in Codemy or SOP the extent of your lack of experience slash skills, but definitely express interest in learning or acquiring the skills you lack if selected? No. If you will notice what I tried to do, I didn't express lack of skills or research skills. I only stated that I've not done research in that area before. Okay,
Yes.
which does not mean that I'm trying to degrade myself. I was only saying this area is new to me. That's all I was trying to say. It doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh, I lack experience, I lack this required skills. I'm only saying it's a new area entirely to me. So I don't think you don't need to start devaluing yourself and mentioning all your defects
Yeah.
in your SOP, and they will say, "Oh, we cannot take this one. This defects are too much." All right,
Yes.
so that's what I was trying to say, not actually um, to highlight my lacks or the things I lack. I was only saying this research area is new to me. That was all.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Um, so someone saying a professor requests professor applicants to send a research statement and CV. Could you help elucidate on the research statement content format, or perhaps if you've got any tips or guide, someone who have little or no research one. Sonia, I think you have something on this, on
Yeah, I have
research.
shared. Yeah, I've shared a tweet on how to write a research statement or a
Yeah.
statement of purpose. I'm attaching the link to that tweet here itself. And you can always go to my Twitter page, my Twitter profile. I have shared the link and find. Okay, what I'm going to do after this call is I'll make a mega thread of all the admission related um, documents that I've shared, so that when you visit the page, I'll pin it to my profile, and that's when you can see all the tweets.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's yeah,
yes, yes. So I
yeah,
just after the yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the same thing I did. I had a thread that includes all other important stuff I've written on admission process. So if anyone opens my pin tweet, you see all the past threads I've made that are very significant. So I think you can do that. You have beautiful threads which you made. They are very, very beautiful. I must say. Okay, someone's asking advantages of West evaluation. I wrote that yesterday. I shared that, not yesterday, the day before yesterday or so, of West evaluation. There are some advantages here. So please, you can check it on my Twitter page. On my Twitter page, what are the advantages? Check it there. Let me pick this question. Can I take you? Can you take me as a mentee? I have GP of 3.8. Mentee. Okay, I know we can just keep communicating, Ayola. Just let's keep communicating. Whichever way, either through Twitter, through YouTube, whichever way. It's a community, okay? I'm usually very careful when it comes to saying mentee. If I say you are my mentee, then I have a special responsibility towards you. But let's just keep communicating and let's see where that is going to lead us. Sonia, a question for you. So
Okay.
to be clear, can I include the reasons for my change in research interest as compared to my undergraduate research work in my code email to the professor?
I think that you can not necessarily required in the cold email. That can very well go and fit in your SOP. In the cold email, you just have to describe what you're doing and why you're interested in their work. And like in the beginning, I was talking about mention the research directions that you're associated with, that you're interested in, and that's all. You don't have to draw too much about, because they're not interested in knowing your story unless they think that you're fit for them in some manner. So focus on what they're doing rather than why you are changing your field in the cold email.
Okay, it's kind of asking if I'm admitted for a PhD, can I be given an MSc if I change my mind after 2 years to opt out of the PhD program? Don't opt out. Why should you opt out? But of course, I've seen people opted out and they got their master's degree. I think that will also depend largely on the school. Yeah, I had a friend came in for PhD, and then she was having trouble with the professor, then her mental health too, and so many things. She wanted to be sane, so she had to opt out. So that's possible given if you have some strong reasons, not just to say, "Oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do it." Some that I know opted out in the department, my department, for example, probably couldn't pass the qualifying exam. Okay,
Yes.
they probably attempted the qualifying exam 3, 4, 5 times and they couldn't pass it, so they just opted out. So that's the situation, that's the case. Someone says, at Sam, for clarity, are you saying that I only have to send my transcript to the requesting university, even if they are specific that they want 4.0 standard and my client is on the 5.0 scale? Now, not that they say they want a 4.0 standard, they're only saying 3.0 out of 4.0 on a scale of 4.0. Okay, so send them whatever you have, they will convert it. Okay, except they specifically say use West evaluation. I mean, convert it yourself. You don't need to convert. But if they say use evaluate your transcript and send it to us, when you evaluate it, the evaluating body will send it directly to them. Okay, but they didn't mention anything about you evaluating it. Just leave it, let it go. All right, let's speak from YouTube now. We are almost ending the questions. We are almost going to the end of questions. Can we email one that more professor who are working in the same lab? Okay, I've answered that. Cannot email more than one professor working in the same lab. All right. SOP samples. Okay, someone is writing that. Someone said, I just checked your code email sample on Twitter. Sarah, do you see the question?
Sorry. Wait, I just checked out potential. Yeah, I mean, potential graduate student inquiry fall 2022. Yes, I mean that's the head, that's the subject head that I chose. It might be a little lengthy, but at least it gives a gist of when you want to apply for, why you're applying for, and what are your research interests. So you can just mention graduate student inquiry as well. Potential is not necessarily needed. Mention the year, and mention a couple of keywords from the researchers' platter, right? I mentioned health communication, I mentioned self affirmation. So you can do that as well. It's not too lengthy. At least I received replies to such emails.
Okay, last question before I allow those who want to speak. Quickly say something. Someone's asking, mechanical engineering, you did mechanical engineering, your interest is in programming and app development. Yes, you can apply, definitely. We've had people from different fields going to programming, coding, data science, and all those stuff. So even though you don't have an undergraduate experience, but know that before you apply, at least you must have some basic knowledge. For example, things you have done, you must have learned it somewhere. Okay, you're not just coming to the field with a blank state or what we call tabula rasa, or something like that. You must have some knowledge. Okay, for example, I have people, so many people. One of my younger brother is in engineering, but he's learning all this coding, is programming, is doing Python, C++, doing all those stuff. He's switching into the ITs, completely. And he's still a student, an undergraduate, okay? So you can do that too and switch. A friend of mine that is into data science now, he learned stuff. You already work as a programmer, you want to take it further. Yes, you can do that. So I was talking about my friend, he studied physics, and then he was doing all these coding things too, and now he's doing data science in New York. So you can actually do it. All right. So let me allow Kayode, you want to say something quickly? You want to ask a question? Kayode Matthew, I can see your hand. You've been raising it since. Okay, Kayode is not asking the question again. Kayode Matthew.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Samuel and Soya, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. I have a couple of questions. Most universities, when you check their portal of the requirement for admission, they always state the proof of English proficiency and all that. Then they mention schools, they send the countries that are exempted from that. And unfortunately, Nigeria is not included. However, they will also state that if your primary language of training is not English, then you should send. But of course, Nigeria's primary language is English language. Now, in that case, Nigeria is not being exempted. Nigeria is also not being considered as a country that you must send that particular stuff. Now, can a proof of English proficiency from one's university stand in place for that case, or does one actually have to write an IELTS? That's one. Thank you for that. The second one is
Yeah, that's the second question.
Okay, the second question. Now, for medical professionals in Nigeria, I don't know about other countries. Medical professionals they are not given a particular grades, and they're not giving CGPAs. We just have the pass or fail category. So it's either you pass or you fail. But of course, for you to have graduated, that means of course you passed all the courses. So in this case, even getting the CGPA is even quite difficult. Now, for some people who have some failures in some courses, in the medical school, there's no carryover. You rather just have a repeat, repeat the entire year, or you have to resit the course. Now, should it be stated in the transcript? I do not know. The universities frown at having a repeat the year tag stated in the transcript. How about the receipt as well? That's two. And three, I was the one who asked about the PhD opting out after 2 years. And I want to be a bit personal on this. There's a process of writing the licensing exam to practice as a medical doctor in the United States, for example, and it takes about an average of 2 years. Now, I love the PhD program, and if I go for a PhD, which takes about 4 to 5 years, and I am lucky enough to pass my licensing exams before that 4 years, of course, I would have to, at some point, have to pick one because I won't be able to practice as a doctor and at the same time maintain my PhD. So in cases like this, is this a tenable reason to opt out of a PhD? And if one does it after like 2 years, will I be considered an opportunity of getting a MSc certificate? Or is it just advisable to go for an MSc directly?
Okay. Let me start from English proficiency. Number one, we've been advocating for Nigeria to be removed from those that are required to, from the list of those required to submit English proficiency exams. And we've seen some schools respond positively. I think what you can do is to write the school, let them know, state your reasons, let them know language of instruction is in English, let them know all these things about Nigeria, and let them know that they didn't exempt us, even though we have all this, and you are writing for them to exempt you from submitting anything, not even a letter. I received such exemptions when I was doing my own applications. I write to them, let them know that this is it. And I've seen many people in this period get such exemptions. I know Dr. Ibala Jobi has been writing about that too on Twitter, and many people have been receiving such exemptions. Okay, so you can write them. Some that may ask you, okay, just get the letter from your school. Some may say, okay, you have to write a Duolingo test, which is just $50 eventually. Fortunately, $50 is not just $50 in the Nigeria of today. So I understand why many will still want to get it exempted, get it waived, so you can have it waived for you. You can actually have it waived for you. Now, for medical professionals, I want to believe in your transcript, they show the scores, the grades for the courses you took, right?
Yes, it's stated there.
Yeah. And did they show, is there a section that shows what those grades stand for? For example, A, B, or pass and fail, where the boundary is? Is there a portion in the transcript that shows that?
Yeah, there's A, there's B, there's C, nothing
Good.
beyond C.
That's all they need. They don't, in fact, they don't need your CGPA at all. All they need is those points and what those points represent. That's all. So you don't need to worry. That's all. And as for opting out, yeah, I think you can have such as a good reason to opt out. Of course, they cannot tie you down to complete the PhD. I mean, they cannot force you. People opt out for different reasons. People opt out to just go and make money. I know some of my mates that opted out just to make money. Some just don't feel they can do it again. Okay, so you can actually opt out if you need to. From the psychology point of view, Sonia, opting out of PhD, what do you think?
I think it's about the reasons that we have. We just have to be answerable to ourselves. If we have, we might feel a sense of void after opting out of a PhD, because it might give us an impression that we are not good enough or we are not resilient enough to. But if you are leaving your PhD, then there has to be and there must be a good reason for why you're opting out. And if you ever feel blaming yourself, then you always have to remind yourself of the bigger picture as to why you left. And you have to write down the costs associated with having to continue that PhD despite the need to have opted out. So that's how you have to convince, and you don't even have to convince yourself, because you're doing this for yourself. You joined a PhD for yourself, you're opting out for yourself, and your happiness matters the most.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Last question here, saying still on the fact that I stated in my SOP that I didn't have the research, I didn't have experience in that particular research area. So in your code email, you don't need to say too much stories. Just go straight to the point in your code email. In the SOP, I was only saying that to let them know I'm new into the field. Okay, that's all. That was all I was doing that for. Just to tell them that this research area is new to me. Okay, it's not like it's totally different. It's the same physics. Okay, I had research experience in radiation and health physics, this is condensed matter physics. So I was only letting them know the background I'm coming from, and that condensed matter physics is new to me. And I explained why I'm interested in condensed matter physics, even though I had a background in radiation and health physics. That was the only thing I was trying to do. Not trying to say I lack the research skill. Okay. In fact, I use that to highlight the research skills I've gained from radiation and health physics. So that's all I was doing about that. All right. So this is like 2 hours, 16 minutes. I think we've had a good time. I believe we've had a good time. I don't know about you. I believe I had a good time.
I had a great time. I had a great time. It was so interesting to connect with people live. And I would like to say that I'm really, really happy to review anything that you would want to send me across. And if you've sent me your DMs already, and if I haven't responded to them, I make a goal of at least responding to 20 DMs a day. So I'll respond to you as soon as possible. And I mean, it was so amazing. Thank you so much, Sam, for hosting me. And thank you so much for showing me showing your trust in me, and for letting me contribute to the community. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to say that we are going across boundaries to do a lot of these things together. Of course, funny enough, I have many Indian friends here. My advisor is Indian. I didn't tell you that.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. She's Indian too.
Oh.
And I have a lot of Indian friends around there. Lot actually. So it's good. I know many students come from India. So, and India is also more in terms of the structure, more like Nigeria in terms of the ethnicity, in terms of even the way English is spoken generally too, just like Nigeria. And
culturally,
so culturally, yeah, it's a lot in common. So thank you for doing what you're doing too. I really appreciate that. That's good. You know, when I started giving tips on Twitter, it was just me. I just felt just me. Then I started seeing other people joining. I said, oh, that's great. I started seeing some, you know, we refer to ourselves as Doki or whatever, just some funny names we call ourselves. And then we started calling each other scholar. Then it turned to prospective scholar for those, I mean, just all this funny stuff. Yes, but it's great. It's great. It's great. So thank you all for joining this meeting. Thank you for coming around. If you need to watch the meeting again, you will have it on YouTube. I always share about the channel. I will share the video on YouTube once it's done. See you sometimes very soon.
Okay.
God bless you. So Sonia, we'll talk. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for joining.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Rashida, you wanted to ask a question then?
No, you cleared that already, so that's why I raised my hand. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Good.
Mr. Samuel.
Yeah.
I sent a direct message to you, you didn't respond.
Oh, let me see. Can you send it again? Seems I've lost it.
Hello, please, Sanya. I'm going to be sending my SOP to you. Please, I want you to kindly help me to review it, please. I really appreciate that.
Surely,
That's exactly the message I sent to you, Mr. Samuel. Just to help me review my SOP.
Okay, this is what will happen for me. I have some I'm reviewing presently. So when I'm done with this set, I will be open to accept more. Okay.
Okay.
But so I believe Sonia can help in the meantime.
Yes.
Okay. Sonia, please, can I send mine to you to help me review?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. Through email. I don't know if I can have your email.
You can send it to me on Twitter. So you can the images, just screenshot the images of your SOP and send it to me.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot.
No, I have so much to review that it's sometimes overwhelming. How do you do it, Sonia? Let me learn.
I just so I had told you I just have a goal. So I set a goal for myself that for the next 45 minutes, I'm gonna reply to 10 DMs and I'll review 3 SOPs. I tend to send voice messages. That's very convenient to give your review. You don't have to type a lot. So I use voice
That's true.
messages.
Voice messages.
Yeah, I send voice messages, and then I mean I dedicate 45 to 50 minutes every day, and it's while I'm on the commute or while I'm traveling, from one place to another. So I've gotten used to it for the last 1 month.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know one of the things I've done before is to review SOP in this gathering, in a gathering just like this.
Yeah.
When it was getting so much, and then I used to have a lot. I still have a lot in my email. I was reviewing some until what time day before yesterday, maybe around 12 midnight. Then I have to email all those guys again to ask them to send in Word format. I mean, I actually review in Word format, like, all those comments in red, highlight, do all those stuff, cross, cancel, like an advisor would do for a student. But I think I might be doing voice review now, if that's faster.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. All right, the meeting has ended. This is just after party. All right, bye guys. See you later.